And we're live.
Oh, thank
Alright.
goodness.
Yes, thank you. Great. Well, this week was Elysium. I had an excuse not to go to this one. Terrible week this week. So the only people who have gone to this one this week were the remainder of the team, Tyler and Chris. So I really don't have much to say other than to poke at some holes here, whatever they talk about. So go ahead, Chris. What do you got for me?
Okay. So, Elysium is a movie that has been hyped up all the summer. We started doing Exposition Dump actually. Well, we started watching movies once a week with Man of Steel.
Correct. Yeah, we started
And
with Man of Steel.
I believe every single week, including last week with Two Guns, that I've been to the movie theaters, I have seen either a trailer or an inside the film or inside look, whatever Regal has, for Elysium. This movie has been highly promoted, highly advertised.
I
And
also feel like it's shown up on a lot of ads on YouTube as well.
yeah. And essentially, it's carried on the star power of its main two leads, Matt Damon, who plays our lead, and Jodie Foster, who plays our antagonist, we'll say. So, the premise of the movie is that it is 2154, and near the end of the 21st century, Earth became overpopulated.
Impossible.
It is impossible, but for the sake of this fantasy movie, we'll say it's possible.
Sure.
So Earth has reached a state of overpopulation, and all of the wealthy basically construct a man-made space station that orbits Earth called Elysium. And up there is where all of the one percenters live, basically. It is a place with, basically, from what we could tell, no violence, no crime, machines that can instantly cure you of any disease, disability, anything like that. It just scans over you, and you're completely fine. They basically use Earth now as sort of a slums and a work labor. Basically, there's robots that they send down that act as the police force, judicial system, everything down there. Medics, they're everything they can be. So, and Earth mostly spends their time building these robots that I guess they send back up to Elysium. Our main character is Max, played by Matt Damon, who is a former car thief who is now got a job working at a robot factory, and an accident occurs in the factory, and he gets hit with a fatal dose of radiation that will kill him in 5 days. So he needs to get to Elysium to cure himself. That is basically the plot of Elysium.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't want to get into spoilers yet, obviously, but I can say pretty confidently this was the worst movie of the summer for me. I hated Elysium. It really is just from top to bottom a terrible movie for me. There's about two things I will say in the movie's credit. One is that I like the robots in it. I like their animation style. I like the way they move. It seems like sometimes they're CGI and some. It seems like they're mostly CGI, but it feels like there may be a few moments where it's models. But regardless of what it is, they move very fluidly. I like how they look. It looked very impressive, and for the rest of the movie, I could say it also looked visually impressive. There are no effects that really looked bad. When people explode, it looks cool. When they're on a space station, it looks like a space station. All very impressive there. Everything else in the movie, though, the acting, the directing, the camera work, the writing, everything else, terrible. It's no one puts in a good performance in this movie. Everyone kind of phones it in. There's two characters who I, honest to God, cannot understand this movie. The first is Spider, who just has like this crazy over the top Hispanic accent, and the second is Kruger, played by Shaltal Copley. I do not know what accent he uses. It's like this strange combination.
South Africa.
South African is what it is.
He is South African. That's why he's got that accent.
Okay, well, the accent he uses in the movie is like a weird combination of Australian, French, and German. Because I cannot understand. There's like literal lines in the movies like "I will make you my wife." Like it's far sillier than Bane's voice ever was. It's borderline comical. I understand now why they never have him talking in the trailer. Because if you heard it once, you'd be like, "What the fuck's up with that dude's voice?" It's very silly. I don't know, Tyler. Let me know what you think of this movie because I've got lists of stuff to go through.
It's got so many holes. It's like Swiss cheese. This was, like you said, visually very beautiful movie. well put together with the CGI on the robots. I mean, there wasn't many times where I thought, oh yeah, that's a computer generated thing there. It's not really there. They looked good. The set pieces were very good. And that's about where you got to stop complimenting it. Bad acting, bad character designs. Most of it's just silly and goofy. And I'll be amazed if you can really find a lot of enjoyment in this movie. If you can, well, good luck to you.
Yeah, I think it'll be about to the point now where we might want to start getting into spoilers, because to get into too many of the things that bother me with this movie, I kind of have to spoil some things. But I think it kind of goes without saying, unless, Tyler, you had something you wanted to bring up?
No, what I want to bring up is mostly spoiler, but I will say I think Kruger that's his normal accent. I think because I think that is.
If that is, then he should not be in movies, because I cannot understand half the things he says.
It's just I think that's actually a South African accent.
He needs to be a writer then, because there's no reason to be in fucking films with that voice.
It's funny because like in the trailers, they made him seem like this silent antagonist, like unstoppable, killable machine that's gonna try to stop Matt Damon. And he seems much more threatening if they had kept it that way.
He never shuts the fuck up in the movie. He's always fucking talking. Oh boy, we've got ourselves a pretty one today, wee wee. Like it's so silly.
I never had a wife.
Yeah, it's like a weird combination of every voice. I've never had a wife. It's
Go ahead.
Make me want to settle down.
Anyway.
Verdicts. Kids.
I think it goes without saying at this point, this is not a movie I appreciate at all. I have to give this a D minus. I almost want to give it an F, but it's not so blatantly offensive as to get an F. It's just really, really bad.
Yeah,
But
I realized
D minus.
I realized last week with my lack of an actual rating system how that was flawed. So I'm going to give this 1 star out of 5. Don't see this movie.
Okay.
Alright, spoilers. If you don't want spoilers for this shitty movie, get out of the fucking chat room and stop listening to this shit. But right now, we're just going to rip this movie apart. Chris!
Okay. So
Eat it alive.
This movie is built on basically having 2 big actors in it. Matt Damon as Max and Jodie Foster as Delacourt. Matt is a really weird character in that he's our protagonist, but you don't like him because he doesn't actually do things that are likable in this movie. Like, now he's kind of like this, like he was formerly a car thief, but now he kind of has like a legitimate job. But he doesn't do heroic things, especially when the time calls upon him to do them. There's a very pivotal point in the movie where he meets a former friend of his basically his love interest, Frey. And Frey's daughter has leukemia. And this is after everything has happened to Max, that he has the exoskeleton suit and everything like that, and he's planning to get to Elysium. He's noted he wants to get there. Frey asks him, I need you to take my daughter, Matilda, to Elysium. She's going to die. And he's like, no. And he starts to walk away. And then Matilda stops him. And she tells this really cheesy story about the meerkat and the hippo. And how the meerkat can't get to any of the food, and Matt Damon stops her, and he's like, I know how this ends. It doesn't end well for the meerkat. She's like, no, the meerkat can stand on the hippo's back, and then he can have all the food he wants. And Matt Damon responds like, what does the hippo get? A friend. And it's so cheesy and forced. But the best part is that Matt Damon's still like, yeah, nope. And he leaves. he only has to interact with them when it's forced upon him, because he willingly gives himself up so he can get to Elysium. And when he gives himself up to Kruger, he finds out they've already taken Frey and their daughter. And he's like, oh, fuck, well, now I have to deal with this. He doesn't choose to save them initially. It's not a decision he makes as a heroic action. In fact, he basically wouldn't be a hero at all if it weren't for the fact that Spider and his group come in and they manage to keep him from getting killed. And he gets a chance to redeem himself, but he's not a heroic figure in this movie. He's living entirely off of himself. His reasons for getting to Elysium are entirely selfish. He doesn't care about helping the rest of the world. He only cares about saving himself. So, It's somewhat weird in that regard that you don't really have a likable character there. The opposite end of this is Jodie Foster's character Delacourt, who is like the Secretary of Defense on Elysium. I don't know why she's the Secretary of Defense, because I don't know what defense Elysium has, because we don't see the robots really doing a whole lot on Elysium. They like stop a bunch of what would you call them?
Illegal immigrants.
Illegal immigrants when they get onto the city, and then we see them at the very very end. But when the city itself gets invaded, don't see them at all. They're nowhere to be seen. But anyway, she is the Secretary of Defense. I don't know why, but Elysium also doesn't have weapons of its own, like orbital weapons or anything like that.
Oh, like outside guns?
Yeah, they don't seem to have anything like that, because when she wants to blow up the spaceships, she has Kruger do it from Earth. He has them send land to space missiles, basically.
Why don't they just...
He just has like a giant rocket launcher. I don't get how it works that it catches up to these ships that have launched minutes before he fires.
Well, I already had this talk with Chris, I believe. The only way it's possible is that thing, if that thing got into orbit, the ship orbited, then it burnt pretty much thrusters to catch itself up to it. Because, once in space, it's pretty easy to catch up to something. But if you're trying to catch something that's launching itself into space, that's going to be a little bit difficult. Because, I mean, we shoot satellites out of space now, low Earth orbit now. But it's just a matter of catching up to it and timing and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be done, but I don't think how they did it in the movie is the way it should have been
the
done.
way it looks filmed, the ships are already past Earth's orbit, or atmosphere. So those missiles catching up to them just seems a little messed up. Anyways, sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so we first meet her, and she's just kind of, what would you call it? Snoozing with basically other
Snoozing.
I don't know, whatever you rubbing elbows with, basically other elite. And you hear her talking about her daughter, I guess she has, or something along those lines. She's basically, rubbing elbows with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But then she finds out that illegal immigrants have invaded. She asks for them to be destroyed. She goes against orders to have 2 of the ships destroyed. One lands, and they catch all the people who are on it and are deporting them. But she gets called into the president of Elysium. He basically says, your actions are not allowed. You can't act this way. If you do this again, we're going to have you disinstated or something along those lines. And she fights back saying, like, do you have children, President? And he says no. And you kind of get the impression that she's supposed to almost be like this uber patriot, maybe. Like, you could actually easily turn this character into a bit more of a complex one if you actually showed the fact that every immigrant who lands on Elysium isn't just there to save their sick fucking kid, that there are some who are actually like, I want to take this by force. And you could actually get into this idea that she's actually rather defensive of people landing on Elysium illegally. They don't show that. Basically, Jodie Foster is just a big puppet of evil to represent the 1%ers, who, by the way, this movie is kind of putting this idea out that, of the 1%ers and race and all that. This movie is incredibly insensitive, because here's the way it works. On Elysium, everyone is white. There's one black guy on Elysium, the president, and he's kind of...
Is it Morgan Freeman?
I don't know. He's not black. He's like Hindu or something.
Yeah, well, he's a minority. I'm sorry. He is not white, basically. There's one non-white person on Elysium, and the language they speak on Elysium is English and French. On Earth, there's one white guy, Matt Damon. Everyone else is either black or Hispanic, and the language they speak is English and Spanish. So everyone in the slums of the Earth are black and Hispanic, and everyone on Elysium are French and white. It is really weird implications from that. It's very, very poor planning. There's just a lot of stupid decisions that were made from a direction and a writing standpoint in this movie. Not making Matt Damon a more likable character. Like, if even the idea of Matt Damon being a joking kind of character is enough to make you be like, oh, he's likable. And you saw how in the trailer he's like, what's in the bag, sir? He's like, hair care products. Ha ha ha, because I'm bald. If you thought that was enough to make him likable, they show you every single scene that he does that's amusing in the trailers for this movie. So he's not like even like a funny kind of character. He's just, you know, a guy who's put upon and all this stupid shit.
He's sarcastic with the cop robots and the parole officer robot, but for the most part, he's not a sarcastic guy.
No, not in the least. Uh, but anyway, back to Jodie Foster's character. She's set up as kind of like this control to Elysium that you think, and you almost kind of expect her to be the antagonist to this movie, like the final villain either physically or just philosophically that Matt Damon has to go up against. But she just kind of gets killed rather casually by Kruger after he's back. He's just like, I've seen enough of you. And he stabs her in the neck with a piece of glass, and then she just dies. She, like, Matt Damon's girlfriend was trying to save her and doesn't. So, Jodie Foster is not in this movie as much as you'd probably think, and she does not put in a good performance. It really kind of just seems like she was like, I'm so fucking done with acting.
She's
I'm
like,
not
this
even
is
going to try.
this is just a paycheck. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's her last movie. I think she said she's retiring after this.
Good.
So, yeah, she may have just done it for the paycheck. But a real antagonist in this movie is Kruger, who, as you said from the trailers, is shown to almost be like this silent killer kind of enemy, almost like because you can see he has the same exoskeleton thing Matt Damon has. You kind of get this impression he's going to be like almost like an exact duplicate of Matt Damon in a way. Like these are two equally leveled, equally powered people. But what Kruger actually is apparently a former rapist, murderer, kidnapper who is just been made into a secret agent by Jodie Foster's character because he's capable of doing whatever shit on Earth she needs him to do. I don't really know, but he then basically gets power hungry, decides he wants to take over Elysium, kills Jodie Foster, blah 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 blah, fights Matt Damon, and Matt Damon eventually kills him. It's really unsatisfying. But there's just like problems with this movie in almost every single way. Like it does a lot of really cheesy, schmaltzy shit. It doesn't characterize anyone as particularly likable. You know, they throw a lot of the really cheesy, sympathetic stuff on you. Like, the only people we ever see going to Elysium are basically moms who want to save their kids from being riddled with cancer or bone
People in
disease.
wheelchairs and the elderly.
Yeah, it's not like, hold on, I want to get to Elysium for a better life, where you can kind of argue, like, well, do you know, it's like if you were trying to make the illegal immigration argument in America, but you're like, every single person who's trying to get over the border is a sick kid with cancer. It's a lot harder to make that argument when you're not like, oh, it's not an entire population trying to get over. It's mostly just parents with dying children.
And they don't care that they're being sent back. They just want to get to these chambers that somehow reorganize your atoms and fix everything. And then they don't care if they go back. They just want to be healthy.
It doesn't make a lot of sense either, that because they have these machines in Elysium that completely heal you from whatever you have. It doesn't seem to matter. Maybe even mental things it could cure you of. I don't know if like Down syndrome or something like that it could cure you of. I don't know what their standards for normal is, but
Does it cure ADD?
it might. Who knows? I don't
Chris?
know what their standards
The way
are.
it seems described in the movie is it breaks down your atoms and reorganizes them to be fixed.
Yeah, so they have these machines that can do this. It takes literally about maybe 30 seconds to do this. They have plenty of these machines. They still don't give them to the people of Earth.
Now
Like,
watch,
that's the
this is
big
all
thing.
just a giant pyramid scheme, and they're just, scamming people for this.
Yeah, it's very possible. We did see a little girl walk after having her broken legs cured.
Yeah, but we don't
yeah,
see what happens 3 days later when they re-break.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Ah!
You really still have cancer. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing, is because they at the end of this movie, basically, here's the big spoiler to everything. Everyone on Earth is made a citizen of Elysium by Matt Damon's actions. He basically has this programming that he reboots Elysium, and when they reboot it, you're allowed to change like core system functions, and they change it so that everyone on Earth is considered a citizen of Elysium. So all the robots are like, there's sick people on Earth. Let's save them. So they send out all their alien robot ships to go down and give these machines to everybody. And
Which
it's like,
doesn't
why?
solve anything, though.
Well, yeah, it doesn't solve anything. Why, though, if they have the technology to do these things, why would you not give these machines?
Especially if they're the workers for Elysium.
Yeah,
Like
they
they built the
essentially.
robots and shit like that. You think you'd want healthy workers.
You
Yeah,
don't
I
have
mean,
to give them money. You're
yeah,
just giving them good health.
you're just not letting them all die of cancer and radiation and shit. Like, you're basically making it so that your workforce can be extremely healthy.
Hmm.
It's almost mind-boggling. Like you're almost making it so. I don't know if that's what the statement they're trying to make, that the 1% is actively trying to make everyone else worse. Because you're basically like saying, well, fuck it, we're just gonna keep all of you crippled, poor children, and then when you get older, we'll deal with that when it comes. But it just seems weird that the 1% wouldn't bother sending at least a couple of these machines down. Fuck, charge them for it if you want to. I don't care, but why would you keep them all to yourself? It's just stupid. You'd gain so much more favor from the fucking 1%ers if you weren't keeping the magic cancer curing machines up there. Especially because why do you need them? I imagine if you have the machine in your house that cures your cancer, you would have fucking used it by now. How many times in your life do you need to cure cancer from yourself?
Every week, apparently.
I don't know. But that's an annoyance in there. Uh, a lot of weird sort of moments where the camera will just start spinning around a scene. A lot of bizarre, like there's a character gets introduced, Julio, and we just suddenly get introduced to him. He's like, oh, I'm Matt Damon's friend. And then Matt Damon brings him along when he sees Spider, who's the other guy who you can't fucking understand. And basically he's like, all right, make a deal, we can go to Elysium to, like, he almost kind of reminds me of Marcus from Borderlands 2 with how, like, over the top he is. Like, imagine just putting a stronger accent on that guy and you basically have Spider. But he basically makes a deal with Spider. He's like, all right, I'll get you up to Elysium, but you have to do this thing for me. And Matt Damon's like, okay, but I'm bringing Julio along, and he gets to come to Elysium with me. And that moment right there, you're just like, okay, so Julio's gonna die. So you just
Julio's
take it
like,
out.
I'm not even sick. Why am I going to Elysium?
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't care about going up there. And shocker,
He's got that look on his face, too. It's like, wait, what?
he's like, I don't like this plan at all. This sounds really bad.
But I'm gonna go along with it anyway because the plot says so.
Okay, it's the president of Elysium is a Pakistani American, so I apologize, but he is still a minority, the one minority on Elysium. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of all the really, really stupid parts of this movie. It's tough without almost explaining everything bit by bit.
Something that bothered me, and I don't know if it bothered you, Chris, was the changing of languages in the middle of a sentence. Like, you could have the same conversation with one person, and you would start off speaking Spanish with them, and then you would end up speaking English.
Yeah.
Why do you need to do that? Like, I understood it early when Jodie Foster's, like, speaking English to one person, then she's speaking French to another person. You know, obviously, you can speak different languages to different people who maybe don't speak that one language, but to speak two different languages to one person in one conversation just seems stupid. Unnecessary. A lot of this movie was just a lot of unnecessary.
Now, Tyler, you were telling me about there was one scene. Actually, both of you told me, but since Chris has been talking this whole time, let's give Tyler something to talk about.
I think I know what you're talking
Go ahead. If you know which one it is, go ahead.
Okay, so Kruger has a big fight with Max on this plane, helicopter, space shuttle thing, and the whole time Matt Damon is basically keeping everybody at bay from beating him and putting him in handcuffs by holding a grenade to his head, because he's stolen very important secrets that can rewrite Elysium and make it the way it ends up being at the end of the movie. So this whole fight breaks out as they're getting ready to land on Elysium. The grenade gets loose and it blows up Kruger's face. So you're thinking he's dead. You know, big bad guy is defeated. Well, his lackeys, Drake and Crow, put him on one of those medical bay stations, and then the thing scans him, and it says brain activity normal. His face has a giant crater in it. How is his brain activity normal?
I don't know. I know,
So,
Chris, you threw a fit about this one too.
It's
he constructs his face in front of you, which is actually pretty cool looking, but stupid as hell.
it's the moment I knew that had Randy watched this movie, it's the exact moment he would have gone out in the theater, stood up, and said bullshit. Because the dude takes a grenade, basically almost point blank to the face. It's maybe 2 or 3 feet away, takes it right to the face, and his brain is still working. Probably at least 10 minutes. We'll be very generous and say 10 minutes afterwards, his brain is still functional. I don't know what they think grenades exactly do, but generally, grenades, when they explode, they fire out shrapnel, which is the deadly part of it. And since it happens right in front of Kruger's face,
Yep.
you'd imagine he just got basically a fucking handful of shrapnel just launched into his face at incredibly high speeds. His brain should be fucking pierced to shreds.
Yep.
There should not be brain function active.
If somehow there is, it should be minimal at best. This guy should be in a comatose state, on a breathing apparatus with a food tube down his throat.
Well,
He doesn't have a nose.
He has no mouth to put a tube down at this point.
It's a giant hole where his face should be.
It's absolutely ridiculous the way it comes off. It's
I
so
think-
boring.
Literally, I think like every movie we go to from now on, we're just gonna be looking for that Randy Rage moment thing where there's gonna be an explosion. Now I'm just gonna go, nope.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be one in every single movie.
If it deals with the
Really
military,
ready to yell at the movie at that point.
if it has to deal with the military or an explosion, those are my Randy Rage moments.
This movie had a few of those, to say the least.
Chris, you want to go ahead and do your when you were talking about how the ending of this movie is and how corny it went?
Oh God. Okay. So,
I know you really like talking about that.
Oh God. Okay. So basically, how it happens is that Matt Damon and Spider are on Elysium, and they find out that what Matt Damon has in his head basically allows him to reboot Elysium. They can do whatever they need to, and
Yep.
there's this big fight with Kruger that both of them manage to survive, and they manage to lock themselves in a room as the president and a couple human guards, I should note, are coming to try to break into the room. And Matt Damon plugs himself in. They find out that when this information was first encoded, it was apparently encoded with a condition that it would be lethal to the person who downloads it from them. So whoever downloads it from them dies, which seems like a very stupid thing to have put into programming. That whenever you have this downloaded from you, you're then like, blah, I'm dead. It's really stupid. But
Well, maybe
it was like they were like, Matt Damon has to make a heroic sacrifice, but we just don't know how.
Well, maybe when it downloads your actual full like cognitive.
But here's the thing: is that the person who was going to use it before is like a rich business entrepreneur. He wouldn't have put it in himself with the because he has the option to make it either lethal or just to paralyze or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if maybe he was planning to give it to Jodie Foster, and then when she downloaded it would kill her, and then he planned to usurp the power from her exactly. Maybe that was his grand plan. Either way, it's incredibly stupid that programming, when it comes out of you, would kill you. Like, I know it's in your brain, but it's not really in your fucking brain.
And that character is played by William Fichtner, who, surprise, bad guy.
Yeah. So, he Spider's like, Matt, you're going to die, homie. And he's like, I know, give me the walkie-talkie. So he gets on the walkie-talkie and he talks to Frey, and he basically goes through the 3 cheesiest callbacks to the movie. Basically, him and Frey were childhood friends. They both made a promise at a very early age that Matt Damon would take her up to Elysium. And then Matt Damon, at one point, I guess he was raised by nuns, and he always wanted to get to Elysium, and the nun told him one day, she's like, you look up there and you see something beautiful. When they look down from there, they see something beautiful too. And she gives him like an amulet, or a locket rather, with a picture of Earth from orbit in it. So he gets on the walkie-talkie and he's like, sorry, Frey, I don't think I'm gonna be able to keep that promise to you. And we're like, all right, that's one cheesy call. And she's like, Matt, are you okay? He's like, yeah. I'm seeing the most beautiful view in the world. He looks out the window and you can see Earth from orbit, and you're like, that's cheesy callback too. Are we done? Can we possibly go for a third one? He's like, oh, and tell Matilda I finally understand what the hippo got out of this. And you're just like, really? And while this is going on, the villains are trying to get in and they're running towards it, and they do this thing where it gets to just this really dramatic music that's just like, oh, just like that Icelandic vocal that doesn't do anything, it just rises and falls. It's so cheesy and stupid. Oh, it's absolutely one of the stupidest decisions. It's just so cheesy. How do you possibly buy into this?
That story was so bad, and to call it back just made me laugh at the end.
Yeah, you were just like, really? You really? Like, who was the guy who wrote that scene? Who wrote the fucking meerkat and the hippo story? Who was so proud of himself. He's like,
We have to have a callback.
At the end of the film. People are gonna fucking eat it up. It's, oh man, it's so bad. There's also a scene in the movie where the car that a couple characters are riding in gets like blown up and flipped over, and for some reason they do that entire scene completely audioless. Like, you can hear people in the movie theaters chairs squeaking. Like, they completely cut audio for that scene.
Like when the car explodes and flips over?
Like, I don't think it explodes. I'm trying to remember the scene exactly. I think the car like hits and flips over at one point. It's basically like an action scene of a car doing a flip or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they cut the audio for that scene.
Are you in the car when it does the flip?
No.
Okay.
It's an outside shot of the car.
I can see. If
you're in it and you're like, oh, your ears are ringing, you
Yep.
can't hear anything.
I would
But
see it
even
for that, yeah.
You can audibly put in something that would give that sort of feeling. You can make the mind think that it's ringing. It's not that at all though. It's just dead silence. Like, you can hear everyone in the theater. It's really, really weird. Like, you're like, what was the point of that? It's just, that's basically the movie in a nutshell. Like, there's nothing in this movie outside of the fact that everyone on Elysium is white and everyone on Earth in the slums is black and Hispanic. Outside of that, there's nothing like horribly, horribly egregiously offensive in this movie. A woman does get smacked by Krieger at one point, which is a bit unnecessary. They make Krieger this really disgusting, annoying character, which doesn't do a lot for the movie. It doesn't make this movie dark. It just makes it stupid. But outside of that, there's nothing like horridly offensive about this movie. The grenade to Krieger's face, stupid as fuck. Maybe one of the stupidest things I've seen this summer. But like, throughout the movie, it's just a movie of things that don't make sense, that don't get you into any sort of emotion. Again, there's no reason to like Matt Damon as a character. He's not a likable protagonist. He doesn't decide to do anything good until the very end of the movie.
And
everyone in the movie overacts or doesn't act enough. There's just, outside of visuals, there's just nothing in this movie that's good.
And the weird thing is we have a mutual friend that actually likes this movie.
Yeah, we do. There's people who like this movie.
I don't understand how.
This movie has a 61% on Rotten Tomatoes at the moment of doing this, a 7.2 on IMDb. I think its Metacritic was something like 62 or something like that.
60.
You said
60,
so,
yeah.
There's the majority of people seem to like this movie right now, which is just, it's so baffling to me. Like, I don't know if people just saw it and they were like, wow, District 9 was a really good social commentary. And like, this movie is just a big social commentary in and of itself, but it's not a very effective one. If you're trying to say that the 1% are wrong, I don't know why. The people on Elysium were selfish, shitty people too. Matt Damon was a former car thief who only wanted to get up into Elysium to cure himself. He didn't care about anyone else.
And if overpopulation was one of the things that kind of ruined Earth, as stupid as that is, healing everybody isn't going to help. You're just kind of making overpopulation a lot worse.
Well, here's the thing, is that Earth isn't overpopulated anymore. At least in the movie, if they're trying to say it's still overpopulated, they do a terrible job of showing it, because it's not overpopulated at all. Scenes are not crowded with people. really the biggest thing this movie tries to almost make a stand against is working an office job. They're like, look how, or an office or a labor job. Like, look how hard it is to be a blue middle collar worker in this world. Look at this big, expansive office you work in, where if we zoom out, you become an ant among thousands of machines. With
What happens today still.
Yeah, like with one cruel man in a business suit looking out over you. Like, if that's what they're trying to say, it's not. This is not an intelligent movie. This is not gripping, bold social commentary. This is a very base, uneducated movie that tries to make an argument that it believes is inarguable. And really what it does is makes an argument so weak you don't even bother arguing against it. Because like, this isn't, there's nothing to argue with in this. There's no debate here. You're just making, this is like Occupation Wall Street, where you're just like, you're a privileged fucking movie director who made a movie worth $200 million about the one percenters. Fuck you. It's just, no, there's nothing redeeming in this movie outside of the robots kind of move and look kind of cool. That's about where my compliments end.
There was also really cool weapons that they showed off, and yet Kruger often would use katanas and knives over these high-tech weapons.
Okay, there's one gun that shoots electricity, which is kind of cool. But then there's one gun that they say has bullets in it that when you fire it, the bullet then creates an explosion that then expands outwards into more explosions in a direction. So like explodes in another direction, or in the direction forward, it explodes again and again and again. You'd think that would be a lot more commonly used in this movie. It's only used once for basically a trailer shot. Otherwise, never used. And that said, Kruger just uses katanas and knives throughout the movie. Like, he has like this big shield to block bullets, and you'd be like, you could probably have killed Matt Damon like 6 times over if you just
shot him.
Yeah.
Use a gun.
It's not even like the Joker's kind of mentality of like, oh, guns are so impersonal. I want to see you bleed and see your reaction. It's nothing like that. Like, he's always going for an instant kill. It's just stupid. I don't know. It was just like, here, we can look really cool if we have this guy with a sword.
Well, as you know, we see in a lot of movies and games that as far as technology goes forward, we still want to use swords in as our main weapon.
I mean, in certain cases, it would make sense. Like, I can almost see, like, in Mass Effect, there's the assassin Kai Lang who uses a sword, which kind of makes sense because he has stealth technology, and once you get close up to somebody using, like, a gun like that, I mean, most guns in Mass Effect didn't have, like, you know, a bayonet
a suppressor.
Or that. So,
I get you. Yeah.
It's something that if he got close range, he probably could win most fights with people. So you can kind of understand. I think he even had a pistol still, too.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you're just like, why would this guy just use swords? Like, why wouldn't he at least keep one gun on him if he's, like, this expert killer?
I mean, even in comic books, you know, like guys like, Deadpool and, what's his name? Slade, the guy who plays Slade. Deathstroke.
Even Wolverine.
Yeah, they have swords, but they still use guns. I don't know where Wolverine's used a gun, but okay.
I was just thought you were going with the fact that there's guns are available.
No, yeah. Well, Wolverine's, that's pretty much built into him to use that.
Yeah, he probably doesn't really need to use guns because he can get shot 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So just pop right out.
So can Deadpool. I mean, he's got regenerative abilities too.
But I could see, you know, they at least use a goddamn gun. Fuck, Indiana Jones uses his gun. Shoots that fucking whip dude, or that sword guy. Gotta love that scene.
I honestly, there's not too much more I can
Let's
say
talk more
this.
about Indiana Jones. That's a nicer, better movie.
Well, unless you're going to the 4th one.
Yes, and then you get
the original.
Then you get nuclear
That fourth one
explosion
didn't
refrigerators.
So, yeah, I mean, this is essentially the movie in a nutshell. It's just a big, stupid movie that looks visually nice, but really it doesn't do anything. It has no real message to get across, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It makes a lot of really bad decisions from top to bottom. So,
if you want to watch a good movie by this guy, go watch District 9.
Yeah, I have not seen District 9. District 9 might be very good. From what I understand, I did see this movie with my cousin, and he mentioned really liking District 9. He was like, District 9 was really smart because they were able to do these horrible things to aliens that were actual things
There's fucking Fragger. God damn it. Fragger! Get to this call. I need to talk to you.
What? Did he message you in chat?
No, he's in the chat room. God damn.
But I mean,
Keep
like,
stalling. I want to see if I can actually get him in here.
Yeah, I know my cousin mentioned saying he loved District 9, but he didn't care for this at all.
Fragger,
Mixed things about District 9, but mostly good, but still like that plausibility of why they did the things they did, but which a lot of this movie had that. Why did they do the things they do? None of it really made sense.
So, no Fragger.
all right, I'm bringing him in.
Okay.
I don't care. I want him in here.
I guess I'm here to be yelled at.
You're here to justify this movie somehow.
I don't know if I can.
I legitimately want to hear what you liked about this movie.
I actually kind of agree with a lot of what you're saying. I just accepted it better.
Okay.
So you're fine with all this weird bullshit happening?
It's one of those things where science fiction has become so bastardized and terrible over the years, where something being at least decent I can live with. And
So
it's sad that I can say that.
So this isn't so much a movie that you're like, this is good. You're like, it's just better than 90% of the shit we get, so I'll take average and act like it's good.
Like,
Okay.
for every, like, moon we get like 6 Transformers. And as someone who's grown up watching and loving science fiction, it is so sad to see what science fiction has become. And like I didn't hear the whole thing of you talking about the movie, but the one thing that troubled me was the shaky cam.
I didn't mind the shaky cam so much.
The final fight, it was awful.
The final fight, it reminds me a lot of like the fight between Batman and Joker, or Batman.
Where it was
like,
awful.
Yeah, where you're just like, I can't see what's going on. But the big thing, I guess, in the benefit of the movie is that it's not a dark movie. Like, you can actually see a lot of the things. Like, a lot of the scenery is well lit. So it's a lot easier to kind of see what's happening, even in the quick cutaway jerks and shaky cam, just because you're able to distinguish the characters from their environment a lot easier.
Yeah, that was something that was very good. It's just, you haven't seen District 9, so
I will
like,
give
the
you
action scenes in there, you could tell what was going on all the time. There was no shaky cam.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on District 9. District 9's a damn good movie.
It's
I haven't seen this one, so
well.
I can't actually say but if Chris doesn't like it and Tyler doesn't like it, I'm about 99.9%, infinity repeating. I'm not going to like this movie.
For me, the thing that I like and dislike about this movie, which is something that doesn't happen a lot in science fiction these days, is the fact that they don't explain everything. They don't just like have that scene like, this is how it works in the future. And I've always liked that, where things are just happening in the background. I don't like things spelled out for me.
There's not a tremendous amount of like, here's our future world, like outside of like Elysium itself, which I think is kind of easy for us to accept because I kind of just look at it like the Citadel from Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically is, you know.
Just not as cool.
Well, I mean, no, I mean it's almost identical to whatever the inner part that was, where the counselor's offices and everything was.
It's a combination of the Citadel and a Halo ring.
Yeah, basically, it's basically if you took that part of the Citadel and basically put it as a ring. Yeah. But I mean, outside of that, there's robots, there's a couple guns that work in strange ways, but outside of that, it's not like a movie that's like beating you over the head with being over the top. It's not like they like get into space tubes and fly up or anything like that. Everything else kind of feels grounded in some kind of technology we can relate to.
And that helps them not having to do that. But I mean, there's plenty of dumb science fiction out there where they do that.
Oh yeah.
And that's something I can like. Other things I did have a problem with was the no guns on Elysium, which... Was it because it was a PR nightmare, or they just didn't think about it, or I don't know. Just
Well, it depends.
it's one of those things
I don't
where-
think I don't think you really want to going off, piercing the shell, and fucking
Well, the thing is
depressurizing
that-
and killing the whole thing.
Well, they do
Yeah.
have guns on Elysium. They have that's where they get the
Yes,
light.
they have guns. I mean defensive.
Oh
You can
yeah,
Oh,
that.
oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh,
weapons.
oh, oh, okay. Outer
Defensive guns.
turrets.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's possible that maybe they do, but I don't know because the whole thing with Jodie Foster using Kruger to blow it up. Maybe she did that because it would be too blatantly obvious, or maybe it could be overridden. She tried to use the station's defenses to destroy that ship.
That could have been a line of dialogue that they could have thrown in to make
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, like there's definitely something you could have thrown in there to clarify that, but it definitely just looks like they're like, wait, you have no, like, what are you the Secretary of Defense of? Like, what
the
is the
secretary
defense?
of telling Kruger what to do.
Yeah, basically.
But no, it's like there's like aesthetically, I love the way the movie looked. I liked how a lot of it felt real. Um, and for the most part, when it comes to science fiction, as long as it's not offensively terrible, that I'm usually somewhat okay with it, just because of how bad it's been lately.
See, I was just curious because, in pre-call for D&D, because we always do a half-hour pre-call,
Yeah.
you said this was a really, you said, I can't quote, but I know it was above good.
I said it was a good movie.
But,
I said it was a really good movie, a very good movie. Also, for people who don't know, I watch movies at midnight. I see them opening night, midnight, and that may have had something to do with that. Also, having a great night with friends, that also does help times. I was in a great mood when I saw it, and
my judgment was impaired. Please, don't hurt me.
no, I'm saying it's like sometimes when you see a good movie and you're in a bad mood, it makes you not like a movie, and the inverse happens too, where that does temper things, and that's why I usually like to see a movie 2 or 3 times before I fully say that I love a movie.
Can I ask you this then? Is there
Sure.
anything that from you listening to us talk about the movie that you actually like just outright disagree with us on?
Um, it's some of the nitpicky stuff, really.
Okay.
Like when you were talking about how the like the gun, how it fired when it was doing that one shot, like the trailer shot with the robot.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the way it works is that it tracks and then it explodes within 5 meters of them each round. It doesn't keep exploding. Like
Okay.
only one round explodes. Like that's how that one worked. I think that's how I heard it. Like it's that
Regardless, it still feels
Oh,
like
that's
a
how-
gun that would be a lot more useful to use.
Yeah, it's one of those things though where it looks like in the
Like,
future where they
Chris-
don't need something like that, so they have like that lightning gun, which was cool.
You were bitching up a fit when you were talking about how he just uses the one gun to shoot
Oh,
something, and
that's
then he
right.
just throws it. Or
Okay, yeah.
Oh god, the shotgun? Yes,
there's
that
a-
was
yeah.
the point.
He takes a shotgun. He fires like an attachment part of it that like puts a remote controlled bomb on a plane. It like pierces into it. He waits till the plane gets into the air and he activates it. The plane flies down. Then he throws the shotgun, fully loaded, which he has not fired, away
and,
and gets
shot
into the
out of
car.
it too. Where he's like, "Bleh."
Like you're just like, just take it with you. You're going to need it. You know you're going to need it. You know ahead of time there are going to be robots on the ship. Why would you throw the fully loaded gun away?
It only had one round.
No, the attachment part only had one round,
yeah,
but
there
the
was actually
shotgun
shells
was fully
still
loaded.
on the shotgun too.
I think the only reason why they may not have used that one gun that blows up 5 meters away from its target is only because that ammo seemed very rare.
Yeah.
So that may have been the only plausible explanation as why you don't see that gun more often. It's just because that seemed like very special ammo the way it was presented.
So now we're going into Outlaw Star things here.
Oh yeah, of course, the caster shells.
Yeah. God damn, I love that show.
It's getting an HD re-release next year. Sorry.
Oh, awesome. I actually have the original.
I have it on DVD as well.
Yep. See? You're not a pain in my ass all the time.
No, see, I help you. But no, in the end, it was one of those movies that I looked like where I would like to actually know more about the universe itself. Like I want to know some of the nitty gritty stuff. Like
So,
in,
like, if they did, like, a
book or something.
novelization of this at some
Yeah,
point.
I would see. It's one of those things where I feel like they may have cut some stuff out of it, maybe to pace it better.
How long was this movie?
About an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah,
That's not actually...
almost 2 hours.
For me, a movie should be around 2 hours, so that's about where I'd say is a good standard for a movie.
And since it's a little under 2 hours, and it is paced very well. It almost moves a little too quickly. when it goes from I need to get to Elysium, I'm on a ship. Like it literally goes like that too.
Yeah.
And it's like it's almost a little too easy, and that's where I'm like thinking like maybe they cut some things for pacing.
So Fragger, if you were to rate this movie, would you like say it as a buyer beware, basically? You have to be really into sci-fi to go see this, or
I'd say this is one of those sci-fi movies where I wasn't walking out going, my fucking god, what the fuck did I just watch? Like if I had to give it out of 10, which I hate doing.
No, you could do an A, B, C, D, E, or F.
Oh, I'd say
grade
it's worth a watch. Maybe not a buy, maybe not an own, but it's at least worth watching.
So you mean like Redbox it or
Yeah, like a rental.
Netflix?
Or it's like watching would mean like it's on Netflix. You could watch it $1 rental at a
HBO
Redbox.
one day or something like that.
Yeah, something where you're not basically paying $20 to watch this thing.
Correct. I'd say that.
Okay. Any last words from anybody before we close out this week?
I hope Kick-Ass 2 is really good.
I'm going in this movie.
That movie's gonna be good.
I'm going in this movie to wait for Jim Carrey. I like Kick-Ass 1, I own it, and I'm going in for it because I don't like absolutely love Jim Carrey, but this is something I didn't expect Jim Carrey to do because
if you didn't tell me it was Jim Carrey in the movie, I would not be able to tell.
Yeah.
Because he is not at all.
He doesn't look like him. He damn near doesn't sound like him, and I don't think this is up his acting alley. I think this is something completely different for him to be doing.
He's done a few things like this.
Maybe, but I had to see this whole movie before I fully pass judgment on that. But I think this is going to be a fantastic movie. I'm going in this one with high hopes. I hope it doesn't hurt me like it did, like Pacific Rim did. My emotions are fragile.
No, nothing on you is fragile.
Yes, just wait for Elysium the game.
Honestly, with the explosion bullets and the lightning gun, it would actually make for a pretty.
But
cool
you know what they'll
FPS.
do though? They'll butcher the shit out of it.
Oh, they'd make crap. It'd be like R.I.P.D. the game, where you're just like, here's things from the game.
It's another reskin of God mode.
If they did it like Riddick, where you don't care what the movie had to do, you just make your own story and use parts of it to make your own game. You could make a decent game out of it.
And it's one of the best in the franchise. Best parts of that franchise, sorry.
But yeah, I think that'll probably do it for Exposition Dump Elysium. Tune in next week for Kick-Ass 2. And probably in the next 10 minutes or less, we'll be doing Co-op or Die, more Borderlands 2. I think that's all. Chris, throw out shit.
Weekly manga recap is going to be this Wednesday over at twitch.tv/royalty, Violinist of Hamlin. That'll be at 7 p.m. Please check that out. We talk about all the Shonen Jump titles there: One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, all of them. And then Royalty Let's Play of Pokemon Leaf Green will continue this Thursday at 7. Then just follow my stream, twitch.tv/royalty, and on Twitter at royalty.
Fragger, since I got you, got anything going?
I wasn't here long enough to do a promotion. Toodles.
All right, man. See ya. Everybody, you have a great night. We'll see you in the next 10 minutes. And we're live. All right.
Goodness.
Yes, thank you. Great. Well, this week was Elysium. I had an excuse not to go to this one. Terrible week this week. So the only people who have gone to this one this week were the remainder of the team, Tyler and Chris. So I really don't have much to say other than to poke at some holes here, whatever they talk about. So go ahead, Chris. What do you got for me?
Okay. So Elysium is a movie that has been hyped up all the summer. We started doing Exposition Dump we started watching movies once a week with Man of Steel.
Correct, yeah. We started with Man of Steel.
I believe every single week, including last week with Two Guns, that I've been to the movie theaters, I have seen either a trailer or an inside the film or inside look, whatever Regal has, for Elysium. This movie has been highly promoted, highly advertised.
I also feel like it's shown up on a lot of ads on YouTube as well.
Yeah. And essentially it's carried on the star power of its main two leads, Matt Damon, who plays our lead, and Jodie Foster, who plays our antagonist, we'll say. So himself. That is basically the plot of Elysium.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't want to get into spoilers yet, obviously, but I can say pretty confidently this was the worst movie of the summer for me. I hated Elysium. It really is just from top to bottom a terrible movie for me. There's about two things I will say in the movie's credit. One is that I like the robots in it. I like their animation style. I like the way they move. It seems like sometimes they're CGI and some. It seems like they're mostly CGI, but it feels like there may be a few moments where it's models. But regardless of what it is, they move very fluidly. I like how they look. It looked very impressive. And for the rest of the movie, I could say it also looked visually impressive. There are no effects that really looked bad. When people explode, it looks cool. When they're on a space station, it looks like a space station. All very impressive there. Everything else in the movie, though, the acting, the directing, the camera work, the writing, everything else, terrible. It's no one puts in a good performance in this movie. Everyone kind of phones it in. There's two characters who honest to God,
Thing there, it's not really there. They look good. The set pieces were very good, and that's about where you got to stop complimenting it. Bad acting, bad character designs. Most of it's just silly and goofy, and I'll be amazed if you can really find a lot of enjoyment in this movie. If you can, well, good luck to you.
yeah. I think it'll be about to the point now where we might want to start getting into spoilers, because to get into too many of the things that bother me with this movie, I kind of have to spoil some things. But I think it kind of goes without saying, unless Tyler, you had something you wanted to bring up.
No, what I want to bring up is mostly spoiler, but I will say I think Kruger that's his normal accent. I think, because I think that is.
If that is, then he should not be in movies, because I cannot understand half of the things he says.
It's just I think that's actually a South African accent.
He needs to be a writer then, because there's no reason to be in fucking films with that voice.
It's funny because like in the trailers, they made him seem like this silent antagonist, like unstoppable kill.
The premise of the movie is that it is 2154, and near the end of the 21st century, Earth became overpopulated.
Impossible.
It is impossible, but for the sake of this fantasy movie, we'll say it's possible.
Sure.
So Earth has reached a state of overpopulation, and all of the wealthy basically construct a man-made space station that orbits Earth called Elysium. And up there is where all of the one percenters live, basically. It is a place with, basically, from what we could tell, no violence, no crime, machines that can instantly cure you of any disease, disability, anything like that. It just scans over you, and you're completely fine. They basically use Earth now as sort of a slums and a work labor, basically. There's robots that they send down that act as the police force, judicial system, everything down there. Medics, they're everything they can be. So, and Earth mostly spends their time building these robots that I guess they send back up to Elysium. Our main character is Max, played by Matt Damon, who is a former car thief who is now got a job working at a robot factory. And an accident occurs in the factory, and he gets hit with a fatal dose of radiation that will kill him in 5 days, so he needs to get to Elysium to kill. Cannot understand this movie. The first is Spider, who just has, like, this crazy, over-the-top Hispanic accent. And the second is Kruger, played by Sharlto Copley. I do not know what accent he uses. It's like this strange combination.
South Africa.
South African is what it is?
He is South African, that's why he's got that accent.
Okay, well, the accent he uses in the movie is like a weird combination of Australian, French, and German. Because I cannot understand. There's like literally lines in the movies like, "I will make you my wife." Like it's far sillier than Bane's voice ever was. It's borderline comical. I understand now why they never have him talking in the trailer. Because if you heard it once, you'd be like, what the fuck's up with that dude's voice? It's very silly. I don't know, Tyler, let me know what you think of this movie, because I've got lists of stuff to go through.
It's got so many holes, it's like Swiss cheese. This was, like you said, visually very beautiful movie, well put together with the CGI on the robots. I mean, there wasn't many times where I thought, oh yeah, that's a computer generated